everyone, and welcome to the 5th episode of the 2nd Annual Digital Government Excellence Symposium, presented by Payette and brought to you from Oakland County, Michigan. I'm Kate Bartrow, Senior Client Success Manager at Payette, and I call beautiful Oakland County, Michigan, my home. With more than 1.2 million residents, Oakland County is the second most populous county in Michigan and 33rd most populous county nationally. I have the privilege of supporting all of our Michigan clients, two of whom will be featured in today's episode. John Glebinski, Treasurer of Grand Rapids, and Desiree Kirkland, the CFO from our capital city of Lansing, Michigan. I know both of our speakers well. They're amazing, knowledgeable finance folks, and I cannot think of better individuals to cover today's topic. Show me the money. Best practices in collecting revenue faster. Collecting more revenue faster is a critical element for government agencies faced with budget and staffing constraints. Digital payments improve time to revenue and reduce delinquency, while also improving cash flow visibility. But this is just the beginning. Real-time payment processing paired with analytics and expanded payment methods leaves state and local governments with an unprecedented opportunity to do even more with less. Today's episode will be moderated by Jason Powell, Director of Implementations here at Payette, who gets to work extensively with all of our clients and gets to see firsthand what local governments are working with, struggling with, and what the best practices are. So let's get started. Jason, over to you.
I want to welcome everybody to today's session. My name is Jason Powell, and I'm the Senior Director of Implementations at Payette, and today I will be your moderator. The topic that we'll be discussing today is Show Me the Money, best practices to collect more revenue faster. And when it comes to digital payment technology, there are quite a few ways that you can approach this topic, both in learning about it as well as implementing solutions to improve your revenue collection process. And a lot of the approach will depend on you and your agency's situation, especially as it comes to resource availability and time that you can invest in rolling out new tools and digital capabilities. As you continue to move from a state level organization all the way down to a county or local government level, you always must find ways to do more with less. And the goal for today's call is that you leave here with tactical steps that you can take today or tomorrow to either begin your journey or continue down the path you are already on. And I'm lucky to be joined by two individuals, and I'll say that there are likely no two better individuals to help us navigate this conversation and understand how to think about and approach the whole ecosystem of digital payments, especially within the local government landscape. So introducing our first guest, Desiree Kirkland. She is the current CFO of the city of Lansing and has spent the last number of years helping understand the technology, helping understand how to roll out this capabilities or roll out these capabilities, and has done so very successfully. And our second guest is John Glebinski, who is one of the foremost thinkers on the adoption of this technology and how to really elevate the experience of the local government and ultimately drive adoption. Again, make sure that his agency within the city of Grand Rapids is doing what they need to do to take the latest and greatest technology. So first up, I want to pass the microphone to John. John, you've spent, again, a decade plus at the city of Grand Rapids, thinking about this technology, thinking about how to enable your agency for success and ultimately to help the residents of Grand Rapids. So I'll pass it to you first to dive in.
Thank you, Jason. This has been an amazing journey. When we think of ourselves as being in municipal finance and municipal service at all, it's a labor of love. So really, when you think of what we've done in Grand Rapids, back in 2014 when I was appointed treasurer, we had certain functionality already in place, and it was rock solid, stable credit card processing. We had multiple channels, and it was the same complaints year after year. Why do I have to have multiple sign-ons to pay my water bill, my refuse bill, my property taxes, my parking tickets? It was the same old adage from our residents. I don't want to pay for somebody's credit card rewards. And so we really, from 2014 to 2016, we're doing some deep dive thinking and really to say, how do we start overcoming some of these hurdles? We weren't seeing credit card payment processing grow It was, if it moved by a half of a percentage point in a year. And so really we were missing that connectivity with our customer. We weren't reaching out to them. We weren't listening to them. We didn't even know how to ask the right question. And so when we think of ourselves as being consumers, put yourself in that customer space where you've had a bad experience, and it's just frustrating beyond belief. One of the things that I think experienced as a community, as a group, as not only municipal workers but also as consumers, we've had to take a step back and say, I need to be a little more patient as I work through some of the processes. So what we actually did is we were actually redesigning our website, as well as looking for how do we engage our customers with more of a service-based, user-driven experience that frankly delights them. How do we make it easy to do work with the city? Because really we were finding people that were taking a 40-minute bus ride one way to come in and pay a bill, and a 40-minute bus ride to get back home. That to me was just unacceptable. We weren't reaching our community. We weren't reaching our residents. And so we embarked on this process to say, how do we take away those roadblocks? How do we get so that folks have an easy way to connect with us? We focus more on service deliverables. And so when people are touching our website, they can touch that website and say, how do I pay a parking ticket? And it's got the steps designed right there, right in front of you, whether you want to click on and go into GR Pay It and pay that parking ticket, whether you have to mail in the bill, whether you have to do it some other way. If you had to come into our office, we've got all those directions are right there. First and foremost, though, at the very center of it is, here's an easy way to transact business online. And so you can click on the green button, it drops you right into GR Pay It, and off you go. Now, I think one of the biggest success stories we have is that we branded it. Okay, we have a brand. And how many communities can actually say that you have your own brand? I have my own brand to the point where going by on a city bus right now says grpayit.us. Go online and pay your water bill or your tax bill. So we really have focused very, very hard on connecting with community. We want to take away some of those the negativity that's been there in the past with how do I make this a real positive experience. So reaching out and finding ways to connect, to have customers link accounts, to receive push notifications when there's a new bill, to get that notification that your payment's going to come out automatically the next day. Those type of touch points are really what I call would be non-intrusive. These are just little snippets of touch points. I'm not asking anything else. I'm just sharing information. I think another great success we've had is that when we communicate with our residents, we get an over 60% open rate on our emails related to payments and GR Pay It, and trying to keep people close to us. We want to make sure that we're not missing any of our residents, and that is so key. You know, we talk about the last mile so many times in our corporate world. You know, we always focus on the last mile. What's that last step we have to take? We need to do that in municipal government. Some of us, though, haven't even taken the first step, and that's what's critical. And a lot of it is the details. It's looking at what you have and where do you want to be. What has been your past growth in payment processing? How many fewer transactions do you take manually versus electronically? And what type of growth do you have in the dollar volume? We always ask this question of ourselves. In fact, it's something that I pride myself in Grand Rapids, because we've gone from 280,000 electronic payments a year to over 580,000 this past calendar year. And we're looking to build upon that going forward. Now, that's just over 5, 6, 7 years that we've seen this double-digit growth. Well, I want to keep pushing that double-digit growth. You know, everybody will ask you, well, John, is 80% high enough threshold to have electronic payments? What's it going to take to get that extra 1% or 2% or 3% added on? Because doesn't it get harder? I said, well, it might not get harder, but we have to explore more options. And so it's trying to figure out what's the next step for us. Is it going to be a more structured marketing campaign on our bills? Is it going to be the way we communicate to a customer on the outside of an envelope where we say, tap, pay, done. Literally, here's our URL code or here's our QR code. You can snap that with your phone and you're right into the payment channel. And how cool is that? We have had QR codes now for 5 years. And now everyone is getting more used to using QR codes at your local restaurant because they're not handing out menus anymore. Instead, there's a QR code on the table that you pull up the menu and you're ordering your food or your drinks, and then eventually it's delivered to your table. So as even shopping, I mean, scan and go in Sam's Club, same concept. We're scanning that QR code. You're jumping in and you're making a payment. You can scan your bill. It's in and you're making a payment. I mean, it's really about how you can continue to delight your customer. And you know what? I think the biggest thing about delighting the customer is the fact that I don't hear complaints. I don't see complaints coming through our GR Treasurer inbox. I don't hear from any complaints coming to our commissioners. I report to my mayor and my commissioners. They're my 7 bosses. I touch base with them on a quarterly basis to make sure there isn't anything percolating up. That's huge for me when I can go in a quarterly meeting and they look at me and say, we don't hear anything from our customers regarding complaints. They might complain about trash not being picked up, but they're not complaining about how they can pay a bill or access city services. And that's huge for me. Payit was really good to us when we went out, I think it was about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and we did a 5-question survey out to our community, our registered users. And with those registered users, they came back with over 90% favorable rating of what we're doing. And I think if I can maintain that type of rating in a municipal service, that's huge. That's a testimony to what our group has done and how we've connected with our residents. You know, and this project, this strategic partnership was so important to us that it changed our setup in our office. We took 3 different job functions, we combined them into one, and now I have cross-trained staff. Not only do I have cross-trained staff, but they're not transactional processors per se. They're not looking at a bill stub and a check and processing it through the system. No, what they're doing is they're actually engaging one-on-one with our customers to have conversations about parking issues, about property taxes, about their refuse service, about water service. So we're actually the folks that are there answering the phone. And how important was that in June of 2020 when we're in the full swings of COVID? And I have half my staff home. My other staff is here. But I had 10 people that could get on the phone at any time, whether it was home or in the office, and they're the voice on the other end of the phone talking to our customers. That was key. I mean, how many times did you find out that people were disconnecting because they couldn't talk to somebody, that there wasn't another human voice on the other side? There wasn't somebody who was empathizing with them. There wasn't somebody there to listen to their concerns. That is the importance of something like Payit and how we move forward to push electronic payments to this type of level. It gave us the opportunity to do so much more. And it's changing again. You know, now we're sitting here thinking about how do we change the state? Imagine that. This is my community of 200,000 trying to change a state of 10 million. So we're looking at all the different things we can possibly do now. Can I get to 1 tax bill versus 2? Can I change other state laws that would make it beneficial to our assessing office, to escrow companies, to title companies, to our residents? How can we find meaningful efficiencies? So this one project with a company called Payit brought us to the point where we started taking blinders off and started to think about what is possible. And so as we took our little steps forward, those little steps began to be leaps and bounds. And now we're able to say, we're looking outside of our office, we're looking outside of our city to how do I make an impact to the greater good of citizens of Michigan. I mean, I never thought that was going to be part of my role coming into the city of Grand Rapids. I started out as an investment analyst and migrated to an administrative analyst. And in 2014, I was appointed treasurer. I can tell you that 15, 20 years ago, that was not the path I saw for myself, but it's something that I am absolutely thrilled that came to my plate. And this is what we do. We look at how we can impact our residents on a daily basis, whether it's through processing payments, through engagement, through answering emails and phone calls at times people don't expect you to. I think that's one of the things I get the biggest kick out of is when you answer the phone and somebody didn't expect anyone to be there. This is what's freed up our time. This is what's taken us away from being transactional processors to knowledge workers, to staff that is there for the residents. And that's making a huge impact within Grand Rapids. And it's not only Grand Rapids, but it's the communities that I talk to around Grand Rapids. It's asking if they want to walk with me on different projects. Do you want to walk with me on that one property tax bill? Which that's just started. And let me tell you, I think that's going to be something that's going to gain some steam pretty quickly in Michigan, but it could really, really, really impact a state. It could. So thinking about efficiencies, thinking about process improvements, thinking about ways to connect people, thinking about how you can change an entire industry. My back of the envelope for that is that could be 4 million fewer tax bills a year across the state of Michigan. So tell me, how does that not make sense? It is more than just incremental growth. That's exponential. That's transformational. Those are the types of things when we talk about how we can improve our community and improve the way citizens look at municipal government. Those are some of the things that we put in place. And let me tell you, the folks that I work with in terms of not only my staff, but the treasurers associations across Michigan, these people care and they want to do this type of work every single day.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, John, for that. And maybe a few questions to highlight a few points that I think are important for the audience to take away. Can you talk a little bit about the culture of change that you've helped both establish and continue to drive forward? I think the assumption is that things in government are hard and that it takes too many sign-offs or too many nods of the head yes to move something forward. But I think you've challenged that and tried to turn it on its head a little bit. So can you talk to me about, maybe I'll call it tone at the top, and how you establish your office and your city as a leader in this space?
It started with my communication with our mayor and our city council, city commission. And so bringing it forward back in 2016 to award a contract to pay it, part of the whole basis of the conversation is service deliverable. And not only service deliverable, but how do I take away roadblocks that are preventing my customers from transacting business with the city? So my mayor and commission, they were behind us the whole way. They could see the value of what we're looking to do, what we attempted to do, and they wanted to hear about that success story. They wanted to hear how we engage customers. They were definitely wanting us to make sure that we weren't leaving anybody behind, that we were looking to make sure that we were having upfront conversations with our citizens. But it's like starting that ball down the hill. It's going to continue to grow and roll faster and gain steam. The same is true with your staff, because as your staff is starting to do that and embrace the same types of items, they're coming up with ideas. So if someone's coming forward to say, hey, this insert should be both in English and Spanish, let's get that done. Great. Now we've connected with our Hispanic community. So we're not leaving people out. And so we're thinking about our whole community in one shot. We want to make sure that we're not leaving anyone behind, but your staff grasps the same thing. If my city commission is looking to me to move things forward and they're seeing that energy, they're energized and they're telling their friends about it. And they're telling other mayors about what we're accomplishing. They're telling the Michigan Municipal League what we're accomplishing. And we continue to move that forward. But then from there, it doesn't stop at my desk. It actually then transcends to where even a naysayer in my office is now the one who's going, we love this. I understand we sometimes have some hiccups, but that's nothing compared to what we've changed. I don't want to go back to the old way.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that. And maybe a similar question, but how do you think about the treasurer's office? You are speaking about the city of Grand Rapids potentially impacting the state of Michigan more broadly. Can you talk to me how you think about managing both up and down the chain to, again, create a culture of change and, again, represent that art of the possible? Is there something specific that you do on a, again, quarterly basis? It sounds like you're meeting with your stakeholders and your commissioners. What else can the audience take away from things that they could be doing or should be doing or considering at the very least for change beyond just your own agency?
I think you start at your own agency, but you start with your staff. So it's not just me talking up or talking down. It's talking sideways. It's talking to the person who's right next to me. It's talking to my deputy. It's talking to my other supervisors. It's talking to the line staff that sit outside my office. It's trying to connect them with the work that we're doing with how it impacts our community. The conversation today focused a lot around our property taxes because we're in the middle of property tax season. And so we're watching all the dollars coming in as quickly as they can through our GR Pay It channel for property taxes. Well, we don't just sit on the money. You have 2 weeks to deliver that to the next group. We have to disperse that to the local authorities. But we invest that money in U.S. Treasuries in the meantime. So then to open the mindset to say, we're now able to take the interest that we earned on that money and give that back to the local taxing authority, that's a teacher's salary and benefits for a year to our school district. So we're doing that extra work to say, here's how we can impact community. And so you instill that same type of mindset, have those conversations with your staff so they can connect their work, which, yes, they're on the phones and they're talking to customers, but they're not seeing, they need to see the impact of those dollars coming in that we can deposit in the bank and then pass out with a higher interest rate that we've earned is really meaningful in our community, to whether it's sponsoring a pocket park in a neighborhood, to whether it's the school district, to whether it's our community college, or whether it's our Kent Intermediate School District that might need additional funds for student programming. I mean, that's how you connect your work, and that's the energy and enthusiasm you want to show and instill in your staff.
I appreciate the reminder of balancing the energy. I think as the seasons go on, it's easy to fall into a lull of behavior, but continuing to pull yourself up and say, hey, we've got large goals that we're trying to achieve, and that's going to take energy, and that's going to take buy-in, and that's going to take all of us showing up every day. So yeah, I appreciate the call out there. I know, John, you've got a large vision that you're trying to achieve for the city and of course the state, but if you had to pause on today and reflect back on what you might do differently, if you were consulting or mentoring someone who is newer to this space and trying to get where you are in maybe not a decade, what would you recommend or what would you advise that individual look at and consider?
A lot of it comes down to trusting the numbers. The data is so important. When we did our initial search on our prior website and Google tag pages, we simply found out that 86% of people touching our website were looking at for payments or invoice information or something to do with their bill. We had no idea. We had 12,000 pages of data sitting out there on our website, and scratch the surface. And so really, it's almost like I think of it as auditing. I'm going to look at 10 transactions, and if I have 2 transactions that are in error, I'm going to expand that to the next 20 or the next 25. It's the same thing. Let the data that you currently have lead you in a direction, because that data is really truthful. And so when you actually can sit there and see it and put it on a page and start to noodle it and understand what's there, I probably would have moved faster. There is a lot. Sometimes there is that. I don't know if I want to put myself in the middle of something like this. What if it goes wrong? There's that fear. As a public official, if 4 of the 7 commissioners vote against me, I'm looking for a new job. And so, a lot of us might have a little bit of a fear to maybe not want to take that jump, or even take that first step to at least explore. You've got to take the first step. And that's, I think, really what's so important. If I'm looking back, I probably should have taken that step back in 2014 as opposed to late 2016. But once you start, it becomes an infectious type of energy that you want to keep winning. I mean, come on. If I'm looking at my payment data, that's like my scorecard. I want to get the highest score at the pinball game. This is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah. Thank you, John, for the journey that you've taken the city of Grand Rapids on. I think there's so much wisdom in what you said, and we'll come back to a few more questions probably closer to the end. But I do want to transition over to Desiree. So Desiree has been the treasurer and now CFO for the city of Lansing. And Desiree, I know you spent a number of years in kind of local government, working with various size municipalities. But I want to pass it to you to talk about some of the transformation that you've helped drive within the city of Lansing, and some of the considerations that you have and that you continue to have as you continue to try and drive positive change.
Thank you, Jason. And our journey, the city of Lansing's journey to pay it, was sort of like we were thrust into it based on circumstances. When I first became aware of this system from John truly is a forerunner for change, for the better, for municipalities in the treasury world, in the finance department, and things that are going to help serve your residents and your customers. But when I came into the treasurer's office, we had so many things that we had to focus on. And one was definitely changing the reputation in the community. So it's like one thing at a time. This is what we need to do. We need to change the treasurer's reputation in the community and how people felt about how we were collecting, how we were that's it, really, how we were collecting funds from them. So that became a priority, looking at the systems that were in place and making those changes, making those improvements. And as we were going through sort of like assessing where we are and looking at where we needed to go, it was one thing at a time until you came across a bump in the road. So our first step to moving to pay it came when we had a pretty major issue with our then current provider. And then we were thrust into saying, okay, let's really be serious about taking that step. And as we have taken that step to improving our systems and processes for the community, for our residents, I probably would step back and say, I should have did this first. Like John said, I should have did this first instead of trying to do something else first, because the platform makes it so easy for the residents to go into the system and say, here's my property taxes, here's my income taxes, here's my trash, and whatever else that we can now add to that platform, and making it so user-friendly and more efficient to collecting revenue more timely for the city. So our road to it was a little different, but we have taken the first step. And that first step had led to more steps. And I can see that it's been a big benefit to the city. And we keep making improvement with it. Um, every bump in the road we've been able to work through, and the our customer service is better. We're continuing to make improvement. Our staff uh, is pleased with the change, and so we're working on branding ourselves. I love that what John said, that we're branding Grand Rapids. So we're working to brand ourselves and to see where else we can take this system for our customers, for our community, and even be a voice along with agreeing with the changes that John would like to see. I think I totally support where it can go. It's a wide field.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Desiree. And maybe a few questions for you.
Sure.
When you think about, a few years ago, you mentioned a topic that I want to maybe spend a bit of time on. You mentioned identifying your goals and understanding where it is you wanted to head. So, can you talk to me about the goal setting process in general and how you think about, especially in the context of, city, county, government, setting goals that are high enough where it'll help you achieve long-term goals, but also maintaining an element of realism and understanding that change is hard. So, can you talk to me about how you think about that process?
Sure. We sit down as a team first and talked about what are some of the issues. Me being new to the treasurer's office, me being new to the city of Lansing, though I've been in the treasurer's world for a while, but new to this community and what was going on, being able to sit down with the team and do an assessment. Okay, really, where are we? And where would we like to see it go? We want to improve our reputation in the community. What do we need to do to get there? What are some of the changes that you suggest? I believe in buy-in from your team, because if your team buys in, then they're going to work harder to make sure that the voice, the message is out there in the community. So getting buy-in from the team first for the treasurer's office, and then going from there. Working from there into, okay, now let's meet with uh, the city wide partners, other departments, and getting their buy in. Now, that wasn't always easy, but having conversations and more conversations and more conversations to get them to where we're going to walk this journey together, knowing that at the end it's going to be so much better for us, with more efficiencies, better message out there in the community. If the community feels better about how we are serving them, and the funds that we're collecting and using those funds to uh, provide a service to them, it's a win-win. And so being able to have those wins and charting those wins along the way, when a customer comes back and say how much they appreciate the change and how much more that they can see um, this had helped them, those are wins. We take every win, no matter how small it is, those wins. I celebrate the wins, believe in celebrating the wins. So having conversations, those are so important, and continuing to have conversations.
Love the idea of always celebrating, every step forward as progress. And again, the journey of 10,000 steps starts with one. So
Yes.
I appreciate that. I know we mentioned at the beginning of the webinar today that you are now in the city CFO role, and that likely encompasses more than just the Treasury Department. So can you talk to me about, from your vantage point now, sitting as the kind of higher ranking, financial role, how do you think about the collaboration across departments and creating, you know, symbiotic relationships, not just with the Treasury group, but everybody who plays a part in the ultimate financial health of a city or a municipality?
So again, that goes back to the communication piece, being able to say, look at the big picture of the city as a whole, not just treasury, not just assessing, not just community development, not just public service, whatever it is. Let's look at the picture as a whole, and how, as a whole, can we better serve our residents, How can we better serve our community? How can we better serve the stakeholders? And having those conversations and being able to listen and to have that dialogue. I don't have all the answers, but I want to be able to sit at the table and understand what where my counterpart director may be and how they see what they wanted to do. Community development's a good one. They take in a lot of code enforcements. And so they deal with a different type of community residents' concerns or business concerns. But how can we better your operation to where we're better serving the community? So again, it comes back to sitting down, having those conversations, building trust across departments, building trust in the community, building trust with the council and within the mayor's office, so that we all understand how important it is for us to work together and move the parameter, move the chart to where we all have wins. Is what I see now. So it's a bigger picture, bigger changes that need to be made, but we're working through them, like you said, one step at a time.
Yeah, and I'll ask you the same question that I asked John, and that is, again, the job is never finished. There's always a continuum of change that we're all living through. But if you had to stop today and look back for someone who might be, less mature in the kind of technology adoption, that scale, what would you do differently, or what would you kind of advise that person to do or consider?
Yeah, I started, like I said, I started in the treasurer's office. So my focus was everything in the treasurer's office. Now going from treasurer to finance, I see how big the actual picture is. And I think if I stepped back, I would have gotten more involved from a big picture scale and said, okay, what are really the priorities overall citywide, and worked on one step at a time. Um, and sometimes that you can do that, and sometimes you may not be able to. We were thrust into this, and we wouldn't have been able to do one step at a time. But just being able to step back, do this big assessment of what needs to happen across the departments, and say, how can we all work together to get to that one thing, to get to the next thing, and then the next thing. And that's what I would say. Do an overall assessment and figure out how you can move it forward.
So from your residents' point of view, how do you go about or think about capturing, you mentioned earlier, every positive interaction you get from a resident, you take that as a win. Oftentimes they're not ever reaching out to tell you how good of a job you're doing, right? They're reaching out to say, hey, I've got a problem. And obviously that can make the sentiment feel a little bit more negative than it truly is. So how do you think about gathering resident opinions, gathering resident perception of what you're doing and what you're trying to do, and again, using that to fuel in a positive way the change that you're wanting to make?
So we did not do a survey to our residents, not our department. We've had another department that brought in an agency to do these sort of like regional meetings to do get the community to come out and do have roundtable discussions to get a feel as to where they were. What we did was, we sort of just got on the phone, or when they called in, just really took time to listen. So we didn't do a survey, but if they called in and just said, this is what's going on, this is the problems I'm having, I encourage my customer service reps to listen to the people. And once you listen, and it may be 10 calls, it may be 15 calls, it may be 50 calls, or whatever it was, we then grabbed that information and just taking the time. Now that's time consuming. I had customer service reps that were on the phone a whole lot, but based on that, we could then take that information and say, yep, this is how they feel. This is what they didn't feel. Our collections were making them feel very uncomfortable. And so that's how we knew we needed to change the reputation in the community. Other departments actually did do a survey, and like I said, did meetings within the 4 different regions within the city to gather the information. We went about it a different way.
Well, thank you so much, Desiree, for walking us through all of those questions and some of your background. I do want to bring John and Desiree back up for maybe a few final questions. So I know, maybe John, I'll go to you first on this one. So I know the procurement process for new solutions, for existing solutions, for making sure that your agency is using best-in-class technology can sometimes be tricky when the agency doesn't feel like they have all of the in-house expertise that is needed to go through an RFP. Can you talk about how you think about the procurement process and how you approach it, and what advice would you have for others?
When it comes to this type of technology, I really recommend that people, first of all, ask others nearby. Second of all, is to scope out what a request for information is. I really think you have to start understanding who are the providers in your area or who would potentially respond to your RFP, because the RFI is going to at least give you some type of information about the various companies that are out there. That's how we actually came across Pay It. And actually, from that point in time, we had lots of different people we knew could do the work. The question is who is going to take us to the next level and see our vision? And so from that RFI, we're then able to shape what the RFP looks like, and then make sure we have the right kind of data included in the RFP to get the best possible response from anyone that's going to provide or be a respondent to that RFP.
Awesome. Thank you. And Desiree, same question. The procurement process is sometimes daunting. So how do you think about approaching it for the city of Lansing and kind of, again, now sitting in the CFO role that you fill?
We had the advantage of sort of like piggybacking off of Grand Rapids. We were able just to use the work that they had done with the RFI and RFP and say, just based on the research and study. So we didn't have to go out and do it, which was great. And the mayor had bought into it. And again, we had a big issue that we sort of like was thrust into making a change and making a change quickly. So we were able to piggyback off of Grand Rapids, and it worked very well for us. So we didn't have to go out and spend time with the RFI, RFP.
Got it. Thank you. So, hey, John.
I do want to piggyback one other comment on this that we really have to think about in terms of municipal government. It's not always the low-cost provider that's going to provide you with the best value. So we have to look at these types of RFPs and say cost cannot be more than 50% of your deciding factor. You really have to focus on the solution, the strategic partnership, and the vision that you're looking to achieve, and the partner's going to help you get there. So you really have to. You can't just buy a low-cost solution, because it's going to be easier on the budget. But the question is how can you tailor that type of solution to the cost savings you're going to achieve in other areas, and so you really have to do a much deeper evaluation so that it's meeting the needs that you're and what you want to get to, what state you want to achieve.
One maybe question I'll have for both of you, and again, this is, I would say, agnostic of the current provider that you both use, but what are some things that treasurers, members of the kind of local government who are watching today, when they seek out partners in this market, John, you just mentioned you don't always know exactly what you might get until you sign a contract or fully engage with somebody, and there's plenty of due diligence that everybody will do to try and suss that out. But are there things that you look for, or things that are must-haves in terms of engaging with a third party, and positive signs that you take into account before signing with somebody?
Always. One is I need a client manager. I want to know what team is going to be wrapped around me that's going to elevate my questions or my concerns, suggestions, anything that can possibly connect me to the organization. Too many times we find there's a commodity product out there that it won't matter who we sign with. Well, this is not a commodity. This is something that you're looking to elevate your community and your organization. And so I want to sit down across the table with somebody and say, walk me through what you think you should be doing for me. Here's where I am. Scope out. Give me the storyboard of where you think I'm going to end up, or where you think I should go. How I can connect. Do I build out one system or 3 systems or 7 systems? What is the approach I should methodically take to do the implementation, the timelines I should achieve, and the results I should be looking for? And frankly, be able to have hard conversations, right? If something's not going right, you got to tell them. You got to actually speak up, because more than likely it's just that something was misunderstood, and we pivot, move in a different direction. But that's what partners do, right? That's what friends do. That's what family does.
Would add, I'm muted. I'm unmuted. I was reading the screen and trying to talk at the same. Okay, lead all of that out. I would add, our relationships with other treasurers, finance directors, or people that do the same things are very important. My first go-to is talking to those people, and then sitting down and talking to the possible vendor that we would be working with to develop a relationship. And for us, I know what is customer service? That is huge, because if their customer service is good and easy for us when we run into an issue, then that just helps us out a whole lot. But if we're going to run into some problems, that may be a deal breaker, because I can't make it more complicated for those who have to account for the transactions on this side after the work is done. And if they run into a problem, they're calling and they're not getting the answers or not getting the support. That's a deal breaker for me. If we're required to provide good customer service, why won't we demand good customer service? So that would be the deal breaker for me. And as we go out and look at possible relationships to form.
I can't thank you both enough. I know this is a massive topic with lots of nooks and crannies, and I hope we've given the audience something to take away on one of those corners. Maybe Desiree, I'll ask you first. Any parting words or parting wisdom for the audience today?
No, I think the presentation and the information, all of that. I hope someone walks away and takes that information and see how this platform can be so beneficial for your community and the results, and use it to the fullest. I was taking notes as to what I can take back to my other departments and say, let's start measuring it. Let's really gather that data and see where it had really a benefit to us. So use it to the fullest is what I would say.
Awesome. And John, take us home.
You have to take the first step.
Mm-hmm.
Recognize that we as people look to improve ourselves through different facets of our life, whether it's our interpersonal relationships, whether it's our health, whether it's the groups that we belong to. The same thing should be true with your organization.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to take stock of what the health of your organization is and where you are today, and then begin to start to understand what that first step is. For us, it was understanding how many transactions we process, what our dollar volumes are, and then how can I get from fewer manual transactions to more electronic transactions. It was the only path that I have to start dealing with fewer resources, because we were coming out of the housing crisis. Now it's like, okay, we were able to cost save, never had to let a person go. We focused on retraining and we rebuilt our organization. But it has to start with the first step.
Mm-hmm.
You have to commit to starting to do the look at all the different financial information, where you are currently and where you want to be.
Awesome. Well said. And as always, Desiree, John, it's great to spend some time with both of you. And again, there's this massive topic, and there's a lot that hopefully everyone can take away from this. And as John, you said, just got to take the first steps. Again, continue to think about this, continue to bring it up within your agency. But other than that, I appreciate everybody's attention today, and I hope you have a great rest of your afternoon.